Oregon Department of Education Spring CTE Collections, CTE Student 2526 and CTE Course 2526, presented by Rebecca Amodeo. This training begins with 4 topics that apply to the 2 co-occurring spring CTE collections, followed by collection-specific data requirements for each CTE student and CTE course. Topics 1, 3, and 4 contain some new information for the 25-26 school year. The new info is indicated on this list and the corresponding slides with yellow highlight on the text. Presentation topics are 1, the 25-26 collection dates, 2, which institutions submit, 3, data submitter and collections support, 4, collections reports and resources, 5, CTE student collection, and 6, CTE course collection. For each CTE student and CTE course, we'll cover separately prepare and submit data, review and confirm submission, and required data and data security. The CTE Course 2526 and CTE Student 2526 collections are both open May 21st of 2026 through July 24th of 2026. Even though the collections have the same open and close dates, they must be submitted in a specific sequence. CTE Student must be submitted before CTE Course because CTE Course validates entries against the same year's CTE Student. CTE Student must be submitted first and include all Category 2 students and Category 3 students who also have a class enrollment to report. I'll talk about these student categories and other data specifics a bit later in the presentation. This year, each spring CTE collection also has a review, August 6th, 2026 through August 21st, 2026. The reviews are a sort of pre-validation process to help identify incorrectly reported data before the secondary career pathways or Perkins performance validations are prepared. More information on the reviews, including CTE course review and CTE student review guidance and training sessions, will be available on the Spring CTE Collections page as their time approaches. All CTE sites with approved CTE programs must submit to CTE student and CTE course each year, either directly or through their school district. Please check with your CTE coordinator and/or local CTE data team regarding the arrangement your institution follows. CTE student is required even if all the approved CTE programs are dormant at the CTE site, and CTE course is required for all non-dormant approved CTE programs. There is technically a reporting requirement exception for startup programs, but startup programs are highly encouraged to submit to the Spring CTE collections to establish student secondary career pathways history for consideration when the program becomes a fully approved program of study. In 2026, only enter records for school year 25-26. Spring CTE collections support. Effective this year, Spring CTE Collections data submitters can contact ODE regional ESD partners for support. These partners are listed below and in the collection guides. Note that this is the same support team for all CTE sites and school districts. Regional, in this case, refers to the fact that they are technically employees of a regional ESD and have a service contract with ODE to provide customer service for data and submissions in consolidated collections. If you submit to other consolidated collections, you may have worked with them before. Spring CTE Collections Reports and Resources. This list summarizes the most useful resources for CTE student and CTE course data preparers and submitters. The Spring CTE Collections page links to the CTE student and CTE course user guides and other resources like this slide deck. The Consolidated Collections application, where these collections are submitted, has a Reports tab with links to lookup tables for collection codes and to the crucial submission checking reports, the new Student IRC Met History Report, the production download reports, and the CTE site summary of both collections. The ESD regional partners introduced on the previous slide are available by email or phone. And there's an email status report I will send while the collections are open. It'll be mailed each Wednesday starting June 3rd, 2026, and continue through Wednesday, July 22nd, 2026. I automatically send this email status report to all Perkins grant managers, which are the direct recipient school district grant managers and the consortia regional coordinators. Local data submitters and or CTE admin may opt in to receive the report as well using the Google form linked in this slide and linked on the Spring CTE Collections page. The Consolidated Collections Reports tab now has a CTE student report called Student IRC Met History Report. Its purpose is to help CTE sites reduce over-reporting of CTE industry-recognized credentials. I'm very excited about this report because I think institutions will find it incredibly helpful in reviewing their 25-26 submission for completeness and accuracy. The Student IRC Met History Report uses a simplified student info for easy navigation. Just a few fields: SSID, first and last name, and birth date. It lists which CTE IRC have been reported met for which students. It includes credentials reported in previous years and by other CTE sites. It also refreshes or updates as CTE student is updated, so you can pull this report before you even submit CTE student, and it will give you automatically all the IRC reported for students that have your institution as their SSID attending institution of record. This helps make sure you don't report something for them in 25-26 that was already reported. After submitting data for this year, you can run the Student IRC Met History Report again and see the report with the new information, including IRC reported this year and the Met History for students in CTE student who have a different SSID attending institution of record but used the CTE site for a special use of attending school in this collection. I will address that more later in the presentation. Note that reporting order, which is what this report shares, is only one of many program eligibility and secondary career pathways or SCP considerations. For instance, student IRC Met History report entries, even those listed as first reported for the student, do not imply SCP funding qualification because the SCP grant has additional requirements for funding those completions beyond just being the first listed entry for that student with that credential set. The Student IRC Met History Report defaults to being shown in the Consolidated Collections interface with options to reorder the report rows by clicking a desired column header. Click the header once to sort in ascending order, a second time for descending, and a third time to return to original order. There is also a download button if you'd like to work with the report in a spreadsheet software like Excel. CTE Student 2526. Prepare and submit CTE student data. This slide represents the very broad strokes of spring CTE collections prep and submission for CTE student. The CTE Student 2526 user guide has detailed information. I'll also address some data prep and submission specifics shortly. Data preparation occurs locally. Run an institution-specific CTE student report in your SIS. That stands for Student Information System. Some places use Synergy, others use PowerSchool, or one of a few more options. Have the registrar or other appropriate colleague review the data required for all student categories in CTE Student. I'll talk about student categories in a moment. And have CTE League teachers or other appropriate colleagues review their program's Category 3 student data. Data submission after data preparation occurs on the ODE district site in the Consolidated Collections app. Use the prepared and reviewed CTE student report from your SIS to submit by web submission and/or file upload in the Consolidated Collections application. The screen snip on this slide is from the menu in the CTE Student 2526 user guide, showing that Section 3 is a preparation checklist example, and Section 4 has the steps to submit CTE Student. Review and confirm CTE Student. After submitting CTE Student and resolving error-flagged entries, check for errors that cannot be identified by the system. Errors like missing data can only be identified using local institution knowledge. To review and confirm the submission, generate the CTE Student Reports Production Download Report, Student IRC Met History Report, and CTE Site Report of both collections. Then compare the collection reports to local records, such as the prepared SIS report. Address any errors in the submission, and when all errors are resolved, consider the submission complete. The screen snip on this slide is from the menu in the CTE Student 2526 user guide, showing that review and confirm submission guidance is in Section 4.3. Student categories to include. For each CTE site, include all students enrolled in any type of class for 20 days or more. They will be in one of 3 categories of students for CTE student. Category 1 students were enrolled in any type of class at the CTE site for at least 20 days, but did not engage in a CTE class or other CTE activity. Category 2 students were enrolled in a CTE class at the CTE site for at least 20 days in the collection year, but they do not have any eligible CTSO, CTE work-based learning, or CTE IRC outcomes to report for the year. We'll talk about those data elements shortly. Category 3 students were enrolled in any class at the CTE site for at least 20 days and do have eligible CTSO, CTE work-based learning, or CTE IRC outcomes to report in the collection year. Data required for Category 1, Category 2, and Category 3 students, that's all students, includes the SSID or student core information with a CTE twist on attending district and attending school. The year-end status and academic disadvantage data are also required for all students.
Work-based learning type codes are also required even for students who do not have CTE work-based learning to report. More on that in the coming slides. Additional data that is required for Category 3 students, as applies to each of them individually, are Student Leadership Organization or CTSO codes, CTE work-based learning information, and CTE IRC information for any attempts at completion of a CTE IRC portfolio in the report year.
The spring CTE collections twist on attending institutions is that the CTE site is always entered as the attending school, and its school district is always listed as the attending district. This is true even when reporting students with different attending institutions of record in SSID for that year. A single student may be a Category 1, Category 2, or Category 3 student at multiple CTE sites in one school year if their various enrollments meet the student category requirements. Such a student will appear in each CTE site's CTE student collection, all in the same collection year. And in each case, each CTE site enters its own ID as the attending school and only enters the data relevant to the CTE activity at their own institution. See the CTE Student 2526 user guide for specifics and examples on this. Year-end status. The year-end status code is required for all Category 1, Category 2, and Category 3 students. The code table is on screen now, and it's available in the CTE Student 2526 user guide, the CTE Student file format, and in the Consolidated Collections Reports tab.
The academic disadvantage flag is also required for all students. On the data map, it's column AY. Enter Y for yes and N for no. A reminder again, include all students, not just CTE students. The shaded text box on this slide shows this data element's description from the CTE student file format. Quote, "This indicates a student who is academically disadvantaged and requires special services and assistance in order to succeed. May include students who score at or below the 25th percentile on a standardized achievement or aptitude test, who have a high school grade point average of less than 2.0 on a 4.0 grade scale, or who fail to attain minimum academic competencies." End quote.
CTE Student Leadership Organization, or CTSO, codes. CTSO codes are only required for Category 3 students who have qualifying engagements. Leave CTE Student Leadership Organization fields blank for all Category 1 and Category 2 students. Additionally, leave these fields blank for Category 3 students who only have CTE work-based learning and/or a CTE industry-recognized credential to report this year. In web submission, CTSO codes are indicated in a checklist with the option to multi-select. In a file upload, there are 4 fields available to report CTSO engagement. If a Category 3 student participated in one CTSO, enter the corresponding code in the field CTE Student Leadership Organization 1 code and leave the rest blank. This is most common for students with CTSO to report. If a Category 3 student participated in 2 CTE Student Leadership Organizations in the collection year, enter one code in CTE Student Leadership Organization 1 code and the second code in CTE Student Leadership Organization 2 code. A third code and a fourth may be entered in CTE Student Leadership Organization 3 code and CTE Student Leadership Organization 4 code, respectively, if a student participates in the matching number of organizations. The code table is on screen now and is available in the CTE Student 2526 User Guide, the CTE Student File Format, and in the Consolidated Collections Reports tab. CTE Work-Based Learning, or WBL. WBL type code fields are required for all CTE student records. Most students, however, won't have CTE WBL to report. Use code Z to indicate not applicable for those students. The Work-Based Learning Type Code table is available in the CTE Student 2526 User Guide, the CTE Student File Format, and in the Consolidated Collections Reports tab. File upload data map columns for these fields are BE, BG, BI, and BK. In web submission, Z is the default code and does not need to be specifically entered. All Category 1 and Category 2 students should have Z as the work-based learning type code. Category 3 students who only have CTSO and/or industry-recognized credentials to report this year should also have Z in the work-based learning type code fields. When work-based learning type code is Z, leave the corresponding work-based learning SIP code and work-based learning hours code fields blank. Like the multiple CTSO entry possibilities discussed with the previous slide, CTE student can receive up to 4 separate work-based learning experiences for a single student row. If Category 3 student participated in multiple different CTE WBL this year, report the first with CTE WBL Type 1 code, the second with CTE WBL Type 2 code, and so on as applicable. Don't report any given CTE work-based learning experience more than once for a student. These multiple entries are for when the student has multiple different work-based learning to report in a single year. For Category 3 students with work-based learning this year, enter the work-based learning type code and the corresponding work-based learning SIP code of the CTE program that provided the experience. This program link is required, and any given CTE work-based learning experience may only be attributed to a single CTE program for any student. There is also an optional work-based learning hours code field for Category 3 students with work-based learning reported. If the CTE program tracks hours information, enter the code in the work-based learning hours code field corresponding to the work-based learning type code and work-based learning SIP code. The related lookup table is available in the CTE Student 2526 User Guide, the CTE Student File Format, and the Consolidated Collections Reports tab. CTE Industry Recognized Credential, IRC, info. Leave the CTE IRC fields blank for all Category 1 and Category 2 students. Also leave these fields blank for Category 3 students who only have CTSO and/or CTE work-based learning to report this year. Many CTE IRC are worked toward over multiple school years. Only report an IRC for the school year the student attempts to complete it. For Category 3 students who attempted the IRC completion this year, enter the CTE IRC code and the corresponding IRC administration date, the date of the completion or completion attempt, the IRC SIP code of the aligned CTE program that supported the student for the credential, and the CTE IRC passcode indicating whether the student successfully completed the IRC or if they did not meet the final requirements. Program linking is required, and any given CTE IRC may only be attributed to a single aligned CTE program for any student. CTE IRCs are also not eligible for repeat credit. The Consolidated Collections Reports tab has a Student IRC Met History Report to help identify IRC previously reported as met by student. CTE IRC codes, SIP codes, and IRC passcodes are available in the CTE Student 2526 User Guide, the CTE Student File Format, and the Consolidated Collections Reports tab.
Data security alerts for CTE student. The CTE student submissions are full of student PII, that's personally identifying information, and they must be stored and shared securely. Email and email attachments are not secure. ODE provides a secure file transfer service for all data partners to use when sharing data that must be handled securely. Use this service for communicating with local colleagues. You do not have to include an ODE staff member in the file transfer.
CTE course 2526. Prepare and submit for CTE course. This slide represents the very broad strokes of spring CTE collections prep and submission for CTE course. The CTE course 2526 user guide has detailed information. I'll also address some data prep and submission specifics shortly. Run an institution-specific CTE course report from your SIS. SIS stands for Student Information System. Your institution might use Synergy, PowerSchool, or one of a few other options. Then have lead CTE teachers, or other appropriate colleagues review their program's class or class section info and student outcome info for completeness and accuracy. I'll address those types of info in coming slides. Data submission after data preparation occurs on the ODE district site in the Consolidated Collections application. A note on submission order with the spring CTE collections. CTE course validates entries against the same year's CTE student. So CTE student must be submitted first and include all Category 2 students and any Category 3 students who also have class enrollment to report. Use the prepared and reviewed CTE course report from your SIS to submit by web submission and/or file upload in the Consolidated Collections application. The screen snip on this slide is from the menu in the CTE course 2526 user guide, showing that section 3 is a preparation checklist example, and section 4 has the steps to submit CTE course. Review and confirm CTE course. After submitting CTE course and resolving error-flagged entries, check for errors that cannot be identified by the system. Errors like missing data can only be identified using local institution knowledge. To review and confirm the submission, generate the CTE course reports, production download report, and CTE site report of both collections. Then compare the Consolidated Collections reports to local records such as the prepared SIS report. Address any errors in the submission. When all the errors are resolved, consider the submission complete. The screen snip on this slide is from the menu in CTE Course 25-26 User Guide, showing that review and confirm submission information is in section 4.3. Required data in CTE course. Report all CTE enrollments, even for those with non-passing earned grades. For example, N for no pass, I for incomplete, or W for withdrew. Each record in CTE course requires 3 types of information. First, the student core or SSID data with our CTE twist on attending district and attending school. Second, the CTE class section information, and third, student outcome info. The spring CTE collections twist on attending institutions is that the CTE site is always entered as the attending school, and its school district is listed as the attending district. This is true even when reporting students with different attending institutions of record in SSID. Students who enroll in CTE classes at multiple CTE sites in a year will appear in each CTE site's CTE course collection with the respective classes. In both cases, each CTE site enters its own institution ID as the attending school. See the CTE Course 25-26 User Guide for specifics and examples. CTE class or class section data. Account for approved CTE program classes with year-long credit listed very carefully. Report each grading period of a year-long class separately from others sharing the class number, and then each with its respective earned grade and credit. Not all institutions set up their approved program class listings in this way, so if yours doesn't, you don't need to worry about this. The data in the class or class section portion of CTE course are the zip code of the CTE program, the class number, the section, if applies, and the teacher name. There are more examples in the CTE Student 25-26 User Guide. There is also one here on the slide in the shaded text box. As the example, if there is fall and spring grading each for a course that is just entered as 1 credit in program update under a single class number, then in CTE course, submit 2 rows with a half credit each to reflect those 2 grading periods for a full year student. If a student was only in one of the semesters, submit just 1 row with the half credit and their earned grade. Use the section field to specify each class portion. This method is up to your institution. Many institutions choose something like fall or spring or other ways to list which point in the sequence. And like I said, that's up to the institution. Student outcome information for CTE course includes the grade earned and the amount of credit available in each grading period. Remember that all enrollments for CTE classes must be in CTE course, even if they had a non-passing grade. The screen snip on this slide shows an example of 8 students entered in a CTE class or class section in web submission. set the default credit for the grading period prior to adding students in web submission class list. If the default credit is not set correctly prior to student entry, the submitter will need to manually correct the value for each student row. After entering each student to the list, manually update each student's earned grade code by use of the row-specific drop-down menu. In file upload, each grading period must still be entered separately with the respective earned grade and credit. In both web submission and file upload, entries with non-passing grades other than F continue to be reported with the same credit value for that class section as would be reported for students with a passing grade. For F grades, enter a credit value of 0. The screen snip shows in the lower right-hand corner an attempt to enter a non-zero credit value for the student with an F grade. It is encircled by red in the interface, indicating the record cannot be saved to the submission until the associated business rule violation, also known as a validation error, has been addressed.
Data security alerts for CTE course. The CTE course submissions are full of student PII, personally identifying information. They must be stored and shared securely. Email and email attachments are not secure. ODE provides a secure file transfer service for all data partners to use when sharing data that must be handled securely. Use this service for communicating with local colleagues. You do not have to include an ODE staff member in the file transfer.
This concludes the presentation. Thank you. The collection guides, slides for this presentation, and other data submitter resources are on the district site Spring CTE Collections page.